Hello Internet, Sir 1001 here, and today I'm bringing you my final deck of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. This is my third and last really effective deck that I built, and it's a 100% scratch build. I got all the cards out of my collection, which was two 3-inch binders thick, and they were stuffed. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. And this is the deck that collapsed the playgroup, so if you're thinking about building it, go for it, man. It's all yours. It's really, in my mind, too powerful for anyone to use. Now, Spear Cretin. Flip whenever this card is sent to the graveyard after being flipped. Each player special summons one monster from their graveyard in face attack position or face down defense position. Two of those. You can just infinite loop the Spear Cretins as eternal blockers. Junk Synchron. He's the tuner in the deck because there are some synchro cards down at the end. Whenever this card is normal summoned, you can special summon one level 2 or lower monster from your graveyard in face-up defense position. That monster's effect is negated. I'm running a full playset in Yu-Gi-Oh, which is 3, unlike the 4 it is in Magic. Gen X Controller. It's 3-star tuner. Just, a vanilla machine dark tuner. Spear Reaper. This card is not destroyed as a result of battle. Destroy this card when it is targeted by the effect of a spell, trap card, or effect monster. If this card successfully attacks your opponent's life points directly, your opponent discard one card randomly from his or her hand. I'm running 2 of those because he is extremely powerful and highly useful. Dark Scorpion Burglars. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points, your opponent selects one spell card from their deck and sends it to the graveyard. Then shuffle the deck. Dark Crusader. You can send one dark monster from your hand to the graveyard to have this card gain 400 attack points. Blast Sphere. If an opponent's and we went over this in the machine deck, but I'll do it again. If an opponent's monster attacks this face-down defense position card, this card becomes an equip card equipped to the attacking monster before damage calculation, so the attack still hits you. Destroy the equipped monster during your opponent's next standby phase and inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's attack. Renge, Gatekeeper of the Dark World. He's a 4-star, 2100 defense monster, 100% vanilla, so nothing to read. He's got Power Invader next. He's a 5-star, 2200 attack point monster. If your opponent controls 2 or more monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. So he turns into a free creature, instead of having you sacrifice the usual one creature to him. Although in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's called tributing, not sacrificing. Reaper of the Cards. Flip, destroy one trap card on the field. If this card's target is face down, flip it face up. If that card is a trap card, it is destroyed. If not, it is flip face down. The card does not activate. Marie the Fallen One. As long as this card is in your graveyard, increase your life points by 200 during each of your standby phases. A little bit of life gain there. Archfiend of Gilfer. When this card is sent into the graveyard, you can equip it to a monster on the battlefield. This card, the equipped monster loses 500 attack. Dark Armed Dragon. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by having exactly 3 dark monsters in your graveyard. You can remove from play 1 dark monster from your graveyard to destroy 1 card on the battlefield. He's an extremely powerful card, but very, very tricky to pull off, which is why I have the Junk Synchrons and the Spear Cretins to manage my graveyard. Draconic Knight. When the effect of an opponent's monster is activated that targets and destroys a card you control, you can send the targeted card to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. Maju Garzat. The attack of this card becomes equal to the combined original attack of the 2 monsters you offered as a tribute to tribute summon this card. As long as this card remains face up on the field, your opponent cannot activate a quick play spell card, so no instants. Darkness Neosphere. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by sending 1 fiend type monster you control and 1 fiend type monster from your hand to the graveyard. When your opponent monsters declares an attack, this card can not be destroyed as battle. Once per turn, you can return all face-up trap cards you control to the hand. The Wicked Dreadroot. The reason this deck is so broken and why nobody likes playing it. This card cannot be special summoned. This card cannot be normal summoned or set except by attributing 3 monsters. Have the attack and defense of all monsters on the field except this card. So he's a 4,000, 4,000. Everything else just shrunk by a factor of 2. He bites their face off. Nom. Double Summon! You can normal summon an additional monster this turn. You can only gain this effect once per turn. Pot of Greed. Draw 2 cards from your deck. Uzaki. Inflict 800 points of direct damage to your opponent's life points. Tribute to the Doomed. Discard 1 card from your hand and select 1 monster on the field and destroy it. Polymerization. Fuse 2 or more fusion material monsters to form a new fusion monster. Lightning Vortex. Discard 1 card, destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls. And a foily one. Wave Motion Cannon. Send this card on the field to the graveyard during your main phase. Inflict damage to your opponent's life points equal to the number of your standby phases that have passed after this card's activation times 1,000 points. Compulsory Evac Device. Return 1 monster on the field to its owner's hand. Robin Goblin. Each time one of your monsters inflicts damage to your opponent's life points, 1 card is randomly selected from your opponent's hand and discarded to the graveyard. Kunai with Chain. A classic from Joey. Choose 1 or both of these effects. Activate only when an opponent monster's attacks. Change the attacking monster to defense position. Equip this card to the monster you control. It gains 500 attack. Raigeki Break. Discard 1 card or 1 card to select and destroy 1 card on the field. Minor Goblin Official. You can activate this card when your opponent's life points are 3,000 or less. Inflict 500 points of direct damage to your opponent's life points during each of his or her standby phases. Hard Selling Goblin. Each time a monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent, return 1 card to your opponent's spell and trap card to its owner's hand. Spellbinding Circle. Select 1 monster as long as this card remains face up on the field. The selected monster cannot attack or change its battle position. When the selected monster is destroyed, this card is also destroyed. Scrap Iron Scarecrow. Activate only when an opponent's monster declares an attack. Negate the attack and set this card face down again instead of sending it to the graveyard. Spellbinding Circle. Now into the fusions and the synchros. Ancient Fairy Dragon. 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters. Once per turn, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from your hand. You cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. Once per turn, you can destroy a field spell card. If you do, gain 1,000 life points, and you can add 1 field spell card from your deck to your hand. 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters. X-Saber Umbrella. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent while they have 4 or more cards in their hand, place 1 random card from their hand on top of their deck. 100 Eyes Dragon. 1 Dark Tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner fiend type monster. Once per turn, you can activate this card's effect by removing from play 1 level 6 or lower dark effect monster from your graveyard until end of turn. Until the end phase, treat this card's name as that monster's name, and this card gains the effect as that monster while face up on the field. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, add 1 Earthbound Immortal monster from your deck to your hand. Red Dragon Archfiend. 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters. If this card attacks a defense position monster your opponent controls, destroy all defense position monsters your opponent controls. After damage calculation, during your end phase, destroy all of the monsters you control that did not declare an attack this turn. Dragon Knight Draco Exquisite. He's the reason for the polymerization. 1 Dragon-type Synchro monster plus 1 Warrior-type monster. This monster can only be special summoned by fusion summon from the extra deck. Once per turn, you can select 1 Dragon-type Synchro monster in the graveyard, remove it from play, treat this card's name as that monster's name, and give this card the same effect as that monster. Until the end phase, When this card is faced with attack position, any effect damage you would take from an opponent's card is inflicted to your opponent instead. And he's a 3200 attack point base. So he's very, very powerful. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, gee, you only won because of that Wicked Red Root and your big Synchro Infusion guys. And I'm like, not really. Because the Spear Cretins you can chain around. Wave Motion Cannon is devastating. Uzaki pokes you for 800. If I can get you below 3000, Minor Goblin Official takes care of the rest. There's a lot of ulterior win conditions in the deck that most people don't realize until they're staring them in the face and getting their butt kicked. Which is why it broke the playgroup, because they didn't see it coming, so they never had an answer prepped. After a few games, though, they started prepping answers, so new ideas had to be come up with, and it finally hit the point it is today, and it has yet to be beat, except by one deck. That deck is Exodia Draw. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it, because the deck is thoroughly broken, and should never have been invented in the first place. Yeah, it pisses me off on a regular basis. Either way, so I hope you enjoyed these 3 videos that I did over my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. These 3 decks are not for sale. I have sold one Yu-Gi-Oh deck that I had whenever I was still playing, and the kid who got it played it for a little bit, said that he loved it, but that he needed the cards in it for other decks, and I'm like, dude, you bought it, do whatever you want. And so he scrapped it out. But while it was still in one piece, the way I built it, he said it worked amazingly and did exactly what I told him it would do every time. So I hope that you Magic players weren't too bored while I went on my sentimental tangent, and I hope that you Yu-Gi-Oh players might take a chance on Magic the way I did. Because while Magic is much more in-depth and more engaging than Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh will only take you so far because of the limitations the game has in it. Plus, at the point that Standard's in now, unless you're running a certified archetype, you're losing. Magic, you can build a scrap deck and still win. So, you know, that's just that, and that's my thoughts on it. So, thank you very much for bearing through this with me, and have a nice day.